Goenka is my new guest today, and what an honor because she is, I call her the woman of substance. She's the CEO and joint managing director at Welspun, India. She's well-known entrepreneur, of course, and a very dynamic businesswoman. The more that I'm reading about her, hearing her, I see that she has spring in her feet, like she says. Unlike very other people, she did her life backwards, got married first, had kids early, worked, and then studied. She empowers people, women in particular, a conscientious person, a woman of substance again, who believes that we have to constantly evolve and change is completely constant. Success is about how we impact and influence others, communities, lives. And I am so glad that she found time to be on our podcast today. Dipali, I am really excited because I think what you've done as a trajectory of your life when you got married when you were really young, of course, because the society said so, get married, and to what you've become. Really, I think your story should go leaps and bounds, and so many women should get inspired by this. So, welcome to Second Act Podcast. It's a place where we learn, unlearn, inspire, aspire, and just be. So, welcome.
Archana, thank you for having me here. And I'm totally honored to be here. And as we spoke, so inspired by your journey as well. So definitely an honor. And thank you for having me here.
Dipali, we start with, of course, like everybody wants to know your life. I know that you got married really early because what I've been hearing is, of course, there was pressure from family. But then how did you actually think that you need to do something else? Because there are lots of people who get married, get kids, and then they feel, okay, I'm now going to be the best mother ever and a best wife. So what happened? And at what point did you think you need to do something else?
As you know, I got married at the age of 18. I turned 18, just turned 18 and got married. My father wasn't well. And I was the daughter that they wanted to get married, wanted her to get married and settled. I think that's the times you're talking about is 1987.
Wow.
So, at that time and today, I mean, you see the millennials and the Gen Z, I mean, they have a very different voice. That time didn't have that voice. But somehow I think I must share, while growing up, I saw my mother. And that actually was at the back of my mind. She comes in from LSR, graduate from LSR. She came into a joint family household where she found her voice in Jaipur. She comes from Delhi to Jaipur. She finds a voice. She runs our businesses because my father wasn't keeping well. She used to, take our sessions of work, homework and everything. We didn't have any tutor at that time. And that was somebody I had in my mind. Her head covered, but having a meeting with the teams. So being in the system, but not being there, but an outlier. And that was my mother. And that was always my impression about what I wanted to be, an outlier, an inspiration, because I saw her, having these, like how I have these, like a spun or my, centers. She actually contributed to women again, their training, their evolution. There my journey began, seeing her like that, actually, Archana. And when I got married, and I think what you said, I think, some people are happy in being mothers. And I think it's everybody's way of looking at things. And I think that's rightly so, right? For me, I always wanted to be, continue to evolve. My journey has always been that this is your life, got to learn every day, got to learn to evolve. But because by the end of the day, Archana, it's not about the money you make, the empires that you create. But by the end of it, it's about the individual that you become. The individual that you become as yourself, and how you influence and impact people. I think that's what I want to be and had always wanted to be. And so, yeah, when my daughters were 10 and 7, I basically thought, and I said, I just can't be here And I'm actually, honestly, also a social recluse. I'm not a person, who can really socialize that easily. I'd rather be happy at work or doing something where I can learn. So honestly, for me, I wanted to do something. So that's where I took my giant leap to start working. I didn't know anything. I mean, that's what I tell my daughters now. Both are like, my younger one is married and my older one is going to be. So I used to tell them that you guys are lucky that, you have um, exposure of the world. You're going to the universities. Here, I couldn't even do so. I wanted to do so much, but I couldn't do so. But maybe that was my hunger. That was my hunger that made me do so many things, that made me think that, yeah, still I have to do something. Still, there's so much that I can do and make an impact and make a difference to myself and to so many people. If I can, I think that's where my journey was. And yeah, it's all about evolution, constant evolution. And I think that's where I would love to be, in that space always.
Beautiful. But I want to know, because I've just also entered an entrepreneurship journey. And the first thing that always blocks me is that I'm not good enough. I don't know this and I don't know that. And I wish I could do better here. So, was there something in the Pali which was constantly coming in your way as well? Or you thought, I mean, you got the support of your husband, family to say, okay, go for it, and you have it all in you? Or tell us about it.
Archana, I think, as we always, you'll have a support, but I think you have to do it on your own. How much support can you lean on to?
That's true.
It's about yourself, and you got to derive that strength from yourself and your belief from yourself. It's always that. For me, I didn't know how to run a computer. I didn't know what I was going. When I said my daughters were 10 and 7 and I want to do something, my husband told me, he said, okay, you want to do something, but you have to be like one of the others who come to the office. And I think that was the right thing, what he did. And I think one thing about me is, and I think he gets it, you challenge Dipali more, she'll come out with more flying colors like a phoenix. And I think that's what I have been all my life. He said, yeah, you do what you feel. But I think for me, I think people always say, oh, you had the luxury of, you have,
Yeah.
your husband being there. So our office was in Andheri, I remember. This was back in 2001, 2002, September. And my daughters were very young. They were in JB Pet at that time, and the schools used to start around 7 o'clock. So sending them to school, getting to Andheri early in the morning at 9:15, being there, because I wanted to be the first one there, so that you set a kind of a precedent. And I always believe one thing. I've always believed, lead from the front, set an example yourself. That you become the best example for your team. And I think that's what I've stood by till today. And come back and, let them do their, make them do their homework. But I think my goal was always to keep on improving and learning. And I'll tell you one thing, Archana, even if you achieve, there'll be always something that you don't know. Like today, look what happened with COVID. I think it just made us unlearn and learn again. And how? Like whole digitization world, did we know that? Did we know how to work on MS Teams? Every meeting was in person, wasn't it? Today we are doing this in virtually, and we do these meetings. We've been doing. I think COVID taught us a lot as well. So I think you'll never be ready for everything, but you need to just find a strength and a belief that yes, you can do it, and you'll be able to do it. And see, learning is a part of your life, and every step what you do. And I think I've taken that in my stride, and I own it up today. I don't know everything today too. I will learn, but I will learn. I'm open to learning. I'm open to taking feedbacks. That will keep me constantly evolving. I can't just be that, okay, this is what I am. I still learn from my teams. I still learn from my blue collar associate on the floor.
Yeah.
I will still learn from my management trainee, because there's always to learn from everybody, isn't it?
Absolutely. But it's not leaders, all the leaders who are ready for this, by the way. And I'm so glad that you talk about it. You talk about a very important thing, which is feedback. I just feel leaders who take feedback, I think the organizations become more stronger and more robust. And I think we should have the ability to do it. And thanks for bringing that up. It's such an important quality.
Owning up and Archana, owning up that mistake.
Yeah.
If you made a mistake, which you have all the right to make a mistake, but learn from that mistake. And I think it's, and owning it up.
Yeah.
There's no harm doing that. There's no harm doing that.
So true. So true. Yeah. So have values that you started off with transitioned to in the last 20 years, now that you have a full-fledged organization, thousands of people report into you. Are there any values that stuck to you? And there are some that you said, no, they don't serve me anymore?
I'll tell you one thing. This is what my mother taught. And I think those are the values are hard. There's no shortcut to hard work and success. Hard work is always going to be the way forward, and discipline. Discipline and hard work. I think that got me going even when I didn't know anything at work. It was like seek lenge. Seekna hai na, so theek hai, I'll show up there. I better show up there and learn. And I think that every part of my life, I followed that. मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी, और जब ज्यादा मेहनत करनी है तो भी करनी पड़ेगी, और डिसिप्लिन, ये दो चीजें बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी हैं. And I think I believe in that, Archana, and I've continued to believe. So these are the value systems that never go by what I do. The important thing is being honest to yourself. And I think in 2016, when the whole issue struck me personally and my organization, I questioned myself. I questioned myself and my values. I questioned myself, where did I go wrong?
Right.
Did I succumb to something? Was I strong enough? Or I wasn't strong enough to do a few things? And I think, and that's where I feel has been a very interesting learning for me as an organization, as an individual as well, where more and more. So, I think every calamity, everything teaches you something. So I always say, never let a crisis go waste. I think that's where you learn. It breaks you, but it makes you. It makes you far more stronger. It makes you as an individual that you want to be, and I think that's what it did for me as well. So as you said, the values for me are, discipline, hard work, honesty. And I think, and also making the most of what I have and giving what I have to everybody around me.
Beautiful. So you work a lot. I think you have literally put, the Kutch back into the map, and the way the cities had just come apart in Gujarat, literally with, nobody, not even infrastructure existing. You've really turned and transformed lives there more than anything. So with all the work that you're doing, especially in the industry of clothing and towels, which takes a lot of water. I know that you're also working very hard to conserve water there. Do you want to talk a little bit about all the transitions that you have bought? How did you start? Why did you pick on that place? And, how did you get women to work in that community? Because that was a complete no-no. So much that has gone through also. How did you think of it? Let's start from there.
I'll tell you one thing, Archana. Let me just get back to where it began. I think my husband is actually a first-generation entrepreneur. And when he started, he started when he was 21. And I think when we were 18, I think that's where a journey began, even in his work life and our family together. So we grew up passionately with a vision, which he had. And I think, that time, and I always tell my daughters the same thing, that, when when two individuals get married, it's not about his or her, it's about we. It's about the equity and the brand that you create.
Mm.
So for me, it has always been about, okay, that has been my husband's milestone. That's where it's been. And so 93, when we set up a plant in Vapi, my daughters were growing up, so I'd gone. That was the home textile plant that happened in 93. That was a plant that we set up as a business kind of a organization. But 2001, 2002 was the time, you remember there was a massive earthquake in Kutch. Everything was devastated. And that's where was the opportunity to set up Welspun and bring up that whole ecosystem again. And that's the time as people, you know, can we think about, like can, corporates and business houses be the agents of change? See, you can do businesses. You can talk about revenues. You can talk about profitability. Is that enough? I think is a question that we need to ask one another. And that's what we did. So can businesses be the agents of change? Can they bring about impact? Was the thing. That was the thought behind Kutch.
Wow.
From devastation to where it rose like a phoenix, where, you have a kind of a thriving ecosystem. And I think that really meant a lot to us. So today, we don't have one school, we have two schools, one in the village, the other is also about first generation school goers. There are women in the community. And I always believe, and I think that's something I have learned myself, that, if a woman is empowered enough, she'll try to not only see her house where the child goes to school, also not only that, she impacts the communities around.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're talking about, this India and the country that we are all about. It's about education and literacy that we are always working towards. There's the women, because imagine 50% of that population doesn't work,
Right.
is not empowered. What does it do? We are talking about $1 trillion GDP.
Yeah.
Can we reach there? We definitely can. Right?
Looking for a quote which says, if a man teaches something and if a woman teaches, it teaches the generation. I'm forgetting, so I'm looking up, but I'm not sure if you remember that. But it's true
Yeah.
that if a woman puts her heart and soul, it just changes the complete trajectory of the country, So it's so important for us to, just honor what women are doing. And you pick them up. You literally pick them up. I think you went to their houses to say, hey, please, come and work, and you change mindsets. And I think that is something that is commendable and you continue to do.
So because, today we have 25% women working at Welspun India. So proud of it. It started from somewhere. And how it started, I want to tell you that actually, Archana. One thing that we all know, and I think if I tell you, you'll also resonate. A woman is completely multitasking. And these women coming in from even till today, I mean, today I'm sitting here, but I know what's happening in my house, what food is being made, till what production and what my quarter 4 will be looking like, right? So we all are multitasking. And this lady of the house wakes up at 5 a.m., sees that her child goes, wakes up, her tiffin box is ready, her husband's food is ready, house is clean, and then she comes to work.
Yeah.
We actually tied up with a NGO, and this was in, I think, 2011 and 2012. And we basically started a program. The NGO was Swasti, and it was with one of the biggest global retailers that time. And we said it's multitasking, but the husband also shares the load. How do you divide and share, your work life? And I think that's where, the massive impact started coming in. One of our girls was actually chosen, and she was chosen, and she went to, I mean, it was like Anjar to Arkansas, from Welspun to Walmart, kind of a thing. And that inspired many other Avnis and it's all about, I think what we can do as women, Archana, is about setting examples and become role models. So if you can do what you did, I think it's incredible what you did, Archana. If you could set those stories for so many people, they learn so much. We could influence so many lives, can't we? We can. And I
Absolutely.
think that's the power of women.
It is, it is. And today, I want to talk more about, of course, empowering them, because I'm so glad that you also do not restrict inclusivity in an organization to only women. You also talk about, including handicapped or, specially abled people. I run a program called Dare to Wear Your Pink Boots, and that is all about dare to stand up. And it includes LGBTQ, it includes specially abled, it includes everybody who's like not represented, I would say equally in the society. And it's a platform that I think lots of organizations are waking up to. And you started pretty early as well. So it's not only about women and empowering them, but really giving space to a lot of people who are not represented fully. So,
Yeah, that's true. And in fact, your question on water that came in, I think Kutch, you know how it is, it is water, it's arid, it's an arid part of the country. And I thought I'll just, continue that conversation that will relate again to what you said. Um, textile is the biggest polluter. Maximum landfills is because of textiles. Maximum water consumption happens with textiles. We don't use a drop of fresh water.
um,
Every water in that community, in that area, goes back to the community. So that the farmers get water for irrigation, women get water for their cooking, and the households get water for drinking. Because the biggest challenge that in our country is potable drinking water. And that's what has happened in our thriving landscape that we are in Kutch. I think that's really something that we have started doing. Sustainability is again about sustenance. It's again about giving back to the environment, where you have taken and stripped it apart. I think that's where it was. We, in fact, upcycle around 2 tons of rags every month. And, that rags from our sheets and fabrics. And so that, there's a program that we have called Spun, where the women makes rugs and carpets and cushions out of it. They earn their living, and those are sold globally.
Wonderful.
So because Kutch is again a very craft-centric area, but it is to change it to the nuances of the Western world, I think was what Welspun stepped into, where women also are earning their living. So definitely that's something that we strive towards working. And it's not about just children in our schools, children in a community. I think that's something that we worked towards as well, where, with COVID, where, we started digital education. So reaching to over around maybe 200,000 children and reaching around what we can do better, I think has been important. The important thing about women is also that, women are always not the center of anything, whether it's a health problem, whether anything, they're always giving. They come last.
Yeah.
And hence the malnutrition, hence, the lot of health issues. So looking at that, if malnutrition can come to bay, is also something that we are working towards in our area in Kutch. So definitely, it's a very integral part of what we do, Archana, is about working with the communities. And it is not, I mean, I don't want to, I wish I can do even I can make a far more bigger impact than what we are doing today. For us, as a story, as Welspun, we work from farm to shelf. So the farmers are again one more story, where, we are working with Nakatrana, Vardha, and the other parts of the, region where the cotton is grown. So the farmers, educating the farmers, working with them to see how, we can, their families also, getting them, empowering them with the AI tools, making them aware about, what rainfall is, what kind of soil you need, kind of best practices is all about what we also are trying to do. So definitely, that's something also we are working towards. But yeah, it's interesting, I think, but I always say there's so much to do and our journey's just begun. I think Yeah.
That's modest. That's modest, but yes, I'm sure that everybody has a lot of things which we can impact ourselves with and the world around us, especially now. You also have two girls, and I want to ask you about them. So, your brain, when you were being brought up, of course, things were different. They have got a completely different kind of upbringing from you. But I'm sure that there is something still that, they learn from you, your resilience, your power, your motivation, your not giving up, your being on the wheel all the time, as they say, so much passion that you have. How are they looking at their mother the way that you looked at your mother being an inspiration? That what are they taking away from you?
I don't know about that, Archana, but I can just tell you, I come in from a very conservative, Marwari, kind of a community where a boy is very, very important to what you do. I had two daughters. I was always told that what are they going to be doing? And I was always under pressure to have a male child.
Oh,
That also was one of my reasons to start working, because I said, if I don't set an example for my daughters, the story would be the same for everybody and every child and every mother in this community. I said, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to let that happen. And that's where I started working too. I think that also was one of my important triggers in my life, that no, I'm not just going to let it be like this. And my daughters have seen me do that. So my older daughter had a lingerie shop, which she's not continuing, but she will later. She pursues Kathak as a hobby. But my younger daughter has a startup called Cool Kanya,
yes.
and it is kind of again a platform for women and girls, because she saw me going through it. She saw me when um, um, she saw me when I was working, and she was in the office, like how it is, like coming back from school. Okay, mama's office, I'll spend some time. So she saw me doing that as well. So I think that's what was on the back of her mind, and that's where she wanted to create that community for girls and young girls, what they're doing. So Cool Kanya is about that, and she continues to work on that very, very passionately. So I guess something or the other comes in, and I'm so happy that again that legacy is going to be impacting more young girls across. So yeah, that's where they both are. Um, and I've always told them that while you get married, you have to, it's all about you as an individual as well, while there are families. But I think very importantly as well, apart from that, it's about you as well. Because one thing, Archana, I've always realized, if you are not happy, you can't make your people around you happy and your family happy.
All right. So, Dipali, you spoke about, of course, the girls. Both the girls are doing well. I know the Kathak comes from you as well, because that's the passion that I think you have given it to them, and they have seen you, enjoying that spirit as well. So, there's lots to learn from the younger generation, and I think girls definitely more than you do with boys, because I have a girl and a boy, and I see the difference. The boy is a different world altogether. The girl is always about what you're doing, mom, you can do this better. She keeps sending me stuff to say, hey, you use this in your workshop. This is completely so. Even when I did the workshop on dare to wear pink boots on bringing in inclusivity, she was the one who actually inspired me and kept sending me stuff to say, read about this, and you should know about gender, and you should know about sexuality, and you need to know, what's going on in the world. So I keep getting these nuggets from her, which is beautiful. So lots to learn from the new generation. I'm coming back to that. What is it that you have taken from them?
A lot of things in the terms of, I think, both my girls, I think the important thing that I've learned is that, being honest with yourself and being honest about a lot of things. Um, um, you know, Important things about mental health, Archana. And I think these kids go through a lot of stress. And owning up that, okay, you need help, you need to talk to somebody about your challenges that you're going through, is what I learned from them. My younger one owned up. My younger one had a food, kind of she went through a whole problem about going very, very extremely thin and skinny. And she knew that she recognized that, she had a problem, where she went back and spoke about it. and got help. So I think this is something that I've learned from the new generation, both of them, my daughters, that if you have a problem, face it, reach out and share it, and also share your story. The incredible that thing that she did was that she shared it on her Instagram, and she shared it because she said so many people will learn from this, what I went through. So I think, Archana, I think this is something as people, I think a lot of things we keep it within us. But I think there are a lot of things that you can share and learn. And that's something I really, really do learn from them. Every day is something that, um, they'll be kind of, they'll set up meeting with somebody to learn from that person, to connect. So creating communities of women who are striving and doing something in their career, but learning together is something that I've learned from them. And above all, I think one thing I learned was love yourself and respect yourself more than anything else. I think that this is what this generation also teaches you, that, you are you. You are individual, you are a human being. It's not just about the people around you that make you. It's about you who makes you. And I think that's really very important.
Yes, and it also takes me back to an example. So we were sitting on a dinner table, and the kids were trying to order something, and they said, "So what do you want, mom?" So I said, "Whatever you guys are ordering." And then they looked at me and says, "But what do you want?" And that question really said, "Oh yeah, but like, literally, like, what do I want? I'm happy with whatever they are doing, and like, if they order something, I'll be happy to eat that." But you're right, they throw questions at you, which makes you more aware about your own self. It talks about you as a person. So, yes, so much to learn. And especially you spoke about mental well being. And I want to know from you, Dipali, being a woman, being an entrepreneur, playing so many roles that you're doing, what are you doing in your personal space, in your mental well being?
Myself,
Yes.
that's I think something about me is that I love my workouts. I love my exercise, and I love my Zumba. So I love dancing. So I think early morning, one day is my weight training, the other day is my Zumba. That gets me going and gets me started for the day.
Nice.
And I love, I take 1 hour away for myself to watch anything what I want to, and just knock out from the world.
Wow.
So I think that's something I really do. So I keep myself away because there's so much that you go through, but you need that space of yours away from everybody. And I think that's what I find my space. So that gets me going. So definitely my exercise, my workout, my my rendezvous with my iPad, and I think, and maybe books sometimes. And books is now very rare now, because I need to unwind a lot more, because there's so much of reading anyway that happens at work at the moment. But yeah, that's one more habit I want to get back to. That's something I've learned from my younger daughter, because she tends to read a book every week. And I said, you have to get back to where it was, because there's so much to learn, again,
Yes.
and where I have stopped doing that for some time.
So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, like a rapid fire. Be as honest as you can. Okay.
Yeah.
So if Dipali wasn't doing Welspun, she would.
She would do something else for sure, with some kind of empowerment, something about something. She would definitely be doing something if she was not doing Welspun. Definitely.
One thing that you wish that if the life went back, you would do it better.
Nothing. I mean, not even my education, which was not completed, because I think that made me get into that determination to improve myself and be the better me of what every day I am. So I think nothing, because I think experiences teach you.
Right. Yeah. So one thing that Dipali would do if she went out all by herself with nobody by her side.
Wow, that's a big one. Because I think, I I like to be with myself sometime. I honestly either would go for a walk because, I tell you one thing, I haven't gone to America for 2 years now. And I'm just looking forward to being there alone. And that's my trip that I usually take alone
Oh,
for
nice.
work. For
Mm.
work and actually, going to Central Park for a, kind of a walk. And after work, just being alone with yourself. Maybe sitting at a cafe, watching people, walk by, looking at people. I think that's something I just love doing as well. So, yeah, being with myself.
Great. And what is the Pali's second act? It's an open-ended. Second act could be anything for you. For me, it's just
You
touching
know
the
what?
yeah.
What for me right now is both my daughters will be married by June. I think my younger one is married, my older one will be soon. So I think for me to find time for myself will be very important. Usually, I have spent a lot of time with them, being there for them. This time it'll be for me to go back to um, my hobby, maybe Kathak again, finding my time to go to a spa in the hills for my health and well-being. I think spending more time with myself and my mental health as well. I need that. So I think I want to start doing that. Work is something, Archana, I can't do without. I think I'm a very person that, who needs something in her life to go about. So it's not this, I think my second act would be working in the communities with women and empowering them and doing something more differently.
Diwali, it's I would not mince any word, but really to know somebody like you, it is an honor. And I really mean every word of it. You're doing commendable work. The humility that you carry with yourself is completely amazing. You not only touch people's lives in the community, but I think every woman who's looking at you today, you're touching their lives as an example that you've set in to the younger generation of today, whom you totally believe in and are empowering them in your own way. So, this podcast is very special, and thank you really from the bottom of my heart. And I hope that many, many, many people hear it and take an example and lead the way that you're leading. And may you find your second act soon. Spend time with yourself, love yourself a little bit more, nourish yourself, because I think as women we need it. We really replenish. We really need to replenish ourselves. So thank you again.